Hi folks, back again. So today we're going to talk about collision planning. So it's Mike.
Deej.
There we go. So this is more aimed at multiplayer levels. So in some of the previous videos, we kind of talked about critical paths and that sort of thing, which are more relevant for single player stuff.
Sure.
In order to obviously map out where you want that single player to actually take the adventure or whatever. So you get a lot of the content. So for multiplayer, it's a very different kettle of fish, because you obviously want them to experience the gameplay, but that gameplay in multiplayer is usually quite different from solo play.
A linear story.
It says as it clicks. So, as I said, collisions kind of come to heat maps as well. We'll talk about them in a sec. So a collision is basically where the action takes place. So we'll talk about collision points or collision zones and a boatload of other things. Kind of like that. In single player, as I said, it's down to tuning AI. It's more beats and pacing. Again, we'll talk about that in a few minutes'
we've
time.
got some on that,
So in multiplayer, collision zone is what we want. So at no point in a death match do we want to go, we want the players to avoid each other. So it's boring, right?
Nice passive-aggressive deathmatch game.
It's like looking at each other angrily rather than actually trying to kill each other. Because it's bad design. We want to put people in this situation where they, are quite happy to kill each other off in interesting ways or anything like that. So usually they're a lot more advanced than let's just put them in a room and hope for a single linear corridor for it. Saying that, I've seen some levels.
That's it. Just kill boxes.
That's kind of it for it as well. But we want that. We want this interaction. It's never a bad thing. As long as it's well put together, it's not a bad thing. So heat maps, again, you'll hear this a lot. If you don't know, heat maps are a tool that's actually used afterwards. So in terms of testing and stuff like that, you would generally generate a heat map, and it's where any action does take place. Anyone dies is usually the heat map sort of thing. But you can get other ones where people fired from, or that sort of thing where anyone's done any sort of major damage, or anything like that, and you end up with a kind of a big red cloud in certain areas or clusters of a map. So literally have a Google for them, and you'll find quite a few. They're really good for testing sort of purposes.
Absolutely.
Figuring out where things are happening, and if you've got a big route where nothing's going on, you can use that to go, actually, can we do something to pull players up to the top route instead of everyone going to that bottom route?
That's it.
Sure. So we're not going to talk too much about heat maps for this, because we're actually going to talk about how to use collisions and actually how to plan a level just using that collision approach for these things as well.
Cool.
So, as I said, the idea of a level, for the most part, is to collide. If we're doing stuff like deathmatch, it definitely is. If we're doing stuff like base-type missions, so CTF Dominion or like King of the Hill, it gives you a whole different set of problems to kind of overcome, because if it's just deathmatch, you can kind of just build a large arena and people will end up finding each other sort of in that kind of thing. So there's quite a lot of Halo or early Halo maps, stuff like Wizard, I think, which is literally just a big circle. It's the one with shotguns in. Nothing but shotguns.
It's
really small. Basically everyone just goes in a big train.
Sure, that's it.
So you will get some of these, they're kind of odd maps when you get to them. Sorry, but having bases in there gives that a whole new attack and
a static objective. It changes. It changes the way the level works,
sort of thing. So you'll see this in a lot of other games. So anything that's like Call of Duty, they generally use their maps for every game type. So their maps are generally actually very well put together
for a load of different things,
because it works for deathmatch and team deathmatch and CTF or whatever else in those. So there's a lot of stuff going on in those maps. For kind of what we're dealing with, especially for multiplayer stuff, so generally we're dealing with UT. So we already know, if you watch the rest of the videos, how UT plays. Quite a lot of vertical stuff, as well as it's heavily movement driven, rather than I'm just going to sit here, walk forward and fire my rocket launcher every 3 steps forward.
That's it.
Kind of thing for it.
You start with nothing in UT. You naff little pistol and that's it. So you move them around. You can't get a good weapon unless you actually wander around, so that's part of the design. So
that's kind of the focus, and that's part of what gets people moving, which is really important when we come to it. So when we start designing for collision, or actually just working out where collisions will take place, again, putting some stuff down and then kind of just going, I hope it works, is not great. Actually, building in routes, this is why route planning is really important. it will actually generate your stuff as you go along, because anywhere where there's intersections, there's usually going to be heat in terms of these games. Anyway, so the three of the basic kind of principles for collisions is LOS, so line of sight. So literally, if I can't see someone else, the probability of me being able to kill them without some weird and wonderful weapon is pretty much nil. So in UT, unless you've got to have something, unless you've got a Redeemer and you just fire it blind.
There's some sort of
hope for the best.
There's some AoE sort of stuff, but even then, you kind of need to be in the ballpark where they are.
You need to know where the enemy is for the most part, except for the Redeemer. That kind of thing, just fire it and run away.
That's it.
Effective range. So again, this happens on quite a few games where maybe my pulse rifle, you can see the shot firing off, and you can kind of go, well, he's fired it from across the map. I'll just move slightly to the side, and
that's the end of that. Then.
I'm done. But then you get other weapons like sniper weapons, which does actually cause quite a lot of problems, especially in UT maps, where people go, I will have this longest corridor known to man, which is everyone is forced to come down, and I've got a sniper rifle set at the end. It's fun for me because I've got the sniper rifle, but that is boring gameplay.
That's it.
So it's one of those things that does happen a lot. So you've got to balance what you have. I mean, you don't need to have all these weapons.
No,
not
at all.
Quite a few maps in UT and all the older generations of it. Maybe had only 4 weapons in them, rather than all like 12 or whatever it is.
And they're chosen. They're not picked at random. They're put in because they complement the actual map that they're designed for in whatever way.
So effective range does come off. Again, other games have got further away you are, the more scatter it is.
Well, literal bullet drop and stuff
like that. And even Doom 2016, the actual enemies. Again, we're talking single player or multiplayer. The accuracy of the enemies is actually dependent on, first off, your health, and second off, the actual distance from each other. So there's actually a lot of hardcore mechanics, because it actually pushes the player forward to do the glory kills to get more stuff. It's very subtle, but it is in there.
Right.
So effective range is kind of important. Again, usually we're on a general equal playing field. So if I've got pulse rifle, you can have a pulse rifle as well. It's not like, I've got all the cool stuff in my base. That's really bad design. As well, which is why symmetrical maps.
That's why we keep coming back to that. Hit engines and whatnot. Keep it symmetrical. Kind of save yourself some headaches.
Just trying to design an asymmetrical capture flag is hard, if not impossible, for it. Sorry, going off on tangents here. The third kind of thing is route time. So when will this action take place? So if I have a bottleneck, we'll talk about that on slide 2, where 2 routes definitely merge together, we're usually going to get something going on. But if it takes me 5 minutes to get there, but you're already there, you're probably already going to pass that, and that's going to be bypassed at some point. So route time is something we've got to take into consideration, and it's really hard to plan it without knowing precisely how people play the game. So it's why heat maps kind of come in useful, and we can re-engineer and
after. We can iterate on it.
Fast iteration of ideas. It's good testing kind of principles for it as well. Cool. So what I've kind of done for the rest of this is I've got my lovely pixel maps out, and it's kind of, I'm just going to iterate on the same idea. And then just build stuff to kind of get around each problem we're going to talk about.
So we're starting with...
So we start with the killing room.
I love this game.
I can see you can see me, and I'll just blow each other up. Boring, because literally who fires first, that's it. So if we kind of move on, we kind of get to this idea of bottlenecks. So again, first fix, let's put some walls in the way, let's have some routes around. So quite a lot of these things are really good if you actually just put a dot and go, where have I got LOS to? So this route, it stops LOS from each of the bases, but then we have some other interesting points to deal with. So a bottleneck is generally somewhere where stuff will get stuck. So in terms of gameplay, it's where if I get there first, I'm going to sit there with my sniper rifle and I'm going to wait until you come around the corner, and I'm going to get a kill every single time.
You just got the advantage.
60% of the thing. So if we look at this, we've changed the initial problem of direct LOS, but we're both going to get to those purple pink points at the same time. And then basically whoever gets that first kill is then going to dominate.
That's it.
For the rest of it.
Scales are tipped.
And there's really no coming back, because you can see the in the upper diagram, anyone who kind of gets to the point where they can get into that room controls that point.
Just one person controls it.
But then we also have the problem that if, you know, I'm the blue team, you're the red team, you're just going to sit on your base then and just wait for me to come around the corner.
Yeah. Sure.
What's the point?
Yeah. And if this was just if this was deathmatch, then we've got to kill each other. Then there's no incentive to move into the middle. Yeah.
So it does break quite a lot when you're doing these sort of things. So in order to counter that, you add more routes into it, which is why I keep saying route planning is essential to start with, and don't just go, oh, let's just add some things in and hope for the best. So multiple paths reduce the risk of bottlenecks, because if it's a 1v1, you know, likelihood is what 2 routes each. You know, we're not going to hit that every single time going the same way.
Yeah, it's an option then.
Yeah, more people. Obviously, it's going to get more dependent on that kind of thing. But the idea there is not to have LOS on all the routes at the same time. So again, with this new little one in the middle, I'm pointing at the screen. You can't see me really pointing at the thing I'm actually trying to point at.
Use the mouse. There we go.
This one over here. It's a bit more open. But again, if someone just kind of hides at the top there, and then they're facing this way, they've got LOS on both things.
Sure.
And it's a lot more tricky to kind of deal with in that situation. So we would expand this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So again, here, exactly the same thing. We've just expanded and put some walls in interesting and odd places. So again, using the same kind of placements of our dudes, we can kind of see where actually we've got a lot of areas which start getting... occluded, so you can't see them. Good word.
Yeah, thanks. There you go. Put on the slides. Can't now.
Right. No. So we get, not only we get routes, because again, there's only 2 ways in here, but if you get in there first, and you know, you're hiding there, I'm there, I can't see you, and I might not actually know that you're there, so I'm looking at this point going, I'm going to snipe him, and then you're around the corner.
Get you, man.
So it adds kind of almost an artificial route in this kind of thing, because there's no line of sight. Alternatively, I could see you going there, and then figure out, he's running this way, I'm going to go around that way. And it adds so much more gameplay from a single bit of occlusion.
All these questions, we're asking, all these scenarios suddenly crop up. Yeah, it's cool.
So again... planning, a lot of times in kind of early on level design, you'll go, oh, make this, make it an engine, make it really pretty, and then you go, it doesn't work. And then it's like, quick, throw the crates in. We've blocked line of sight, excellent.
Done.
But if you put crates in, you've actually changed your routes. And then you've got to work out if it's a half crate, and you can see half of it, or you have to crouch, depends on the game. When you kind of come across it. So it's always best planning this stuff out. I'm going to keep saying planning a lot today when it comes to this.
Take anything from this.
Plan your routes first. So we get a bit more kind of mobility when it comes to this, and we've kind of solved that original bottleneck problem. Yes, there's 2 points, but if we start talking about time between them, obviously for blue, this is the first thing, or the quickest route.
Sure.
And then for red, this is the quickest route. So we're no longer bottlenecking there, because by the time we get there, you get there, there's not really going to be LOS between there. It's going to be a little bit. But these other routes are also viable as well. It's really hard to show that when it comes to these sort of things.
No, use your imagination.
A separate timing document for it. So that kind of thing will fix a lot of these problems, and it's not too hard. Again, with this is actually symmetrical, but it's flipped symmetrical. Which is why it's really good. If you've got something which is perfect symmetry, you do get kind of a very boring kind of thing. So flipped symmetry is actually it's one of the UT kind of standard things when it comes to
time passes off the top of my head. I think that's flipped symmetry. So
so you'll see this a lot where it looks like, these aren't the same. That they are. When it comes to it.
Sure.
Okay, so we'll kind of fix that middle problem. We've got the other problem there, that those bases in that top image, well, that's going to be really easy to secure. Again, unless I've got a redeemer, and I'll just...
because even if someone gets through all this middle bit, they're still just coming into a little kill corridor. But
so, in terms of real life, having your base unbelievably well defended is a standard practice.
It's just a good idea.
Sort of thing for it. But in terms of gameplay, it's boring. It's not fun. And that's kind of what we want. So one of the big mistakes is not having multiple points in. One of the weird things I've always found 3 is the magic number when it comes to route planning. Because 2's kind of like, you can usually defend. 2, but
you can
3
look between 2, but
gives you another option. You're going to need an extra person to kind of cover all the exits if you're going to play very defensively and very negatively, especially in a capture the flag sort of situation. So that's kind of the most common mistake, is having something weird and wonderful like this.
Yeah.
In UT as well, one of the really common mistakes, especially early on, is having those spawns on the flag base.
Yeah, that's it.
Which is terrible. I think they've still got in UT where you can just kill yourself and then just spawn back at one of the spawn points.
Yeah, and there's no cooldown in death.
Blue's got the flag. Bing,
yeah,
I'm back.
Surprise!
Surprise.
Yeah, so... Yeah.
One of the things I haven't mentioned on this is actual weapon placement. And again, it's exactly the same thing. You generally don't put your rocket launcher next to your flag base because it's that instant draw. There are some maps that do it. Facing Worlds, pretty much a lot of the big guns are pretty much very close to the flag. But Facing Worlds is a very weird example.
It's
of
a
map.
bit of a joke, isn't it? Like, as in, not as in bad, but as in, like, it's an outlier of good design.
It's generally used as a practice map.
For
sort of stuff, for stick on the low grab and the insta gib kind of thing for it.
Yeah.
So having this kind of divergence in terms of base entrance is really important. There's a lot of maps which do this really well, so you can't just... I'll just sit in this corner, and I'll always get this kind of thing. Again, if you're there, then you can't see what's coming around this corner. You can probably, if you're looking this way, you can kind of get maybe 2 covered at any point, but you're not going to get all 3, and you're going to get someone sneaking up on you at some point. Or you've got to waste like half your team covering the points.
And then you're going to pay for it in the midfield or whatever.
So if we kind of apply this to this, it's a bit of an expansion, but it's just adding these routes in.
It's logical though.
So here I've added quite a lot of routes in, which does actually lead us to yet another problem where we can come across design issues.
Nice.
So fear the badly drawn green lines
at
this point. It kind of reminds me of the old school UT days with the apples.
Yes, and the links between the nodes and all that pullover. Yeah.
There you go, nostalgia, sorry. So if you start getting stuff like this with a huge amount of routes and things in between, again, there's more ways you can move around it, but these are the key points. You start getting into what we generally term as a maze map. So if I could go 5 different ways at any point, so if I'm standing in the middle of this room, I'm all over the shop. It gets to the point where I don't know what to do. There's too many options, really, and there's nothing dragging me forward. I don't know what I could literally get lost somewhere down here. Someone's got the flag. I don't know how to get back.
It's just unnecessary. You've spent the time doing it, but for actually no benefit. You can't over. It's not even design, but you can make too much in your level, can't you? You can have too many routes and whatnot.
Too many routes for it. Having a few is important. You need a few.
Absolutely.
But going overboard like stuff like this is pretty bad. When it comes to the middle, you'll end up getting stuff like this, and that's actually quite good because you want to. This is the main element of the middle of the map. You're going to get more heat. In the middle. You always will.
You want options. You want
options to kind
strategies
of move around. There's not actually that many routes there. It's just this open space and then kind of the blockers in between. But stuff like this, it doesn't add too much. It adds far too much cover for an attack around there because there's too many points kind of to defend for it. And again, if you've got like 2v2 or 4v4 and you've got 18 routes, you're never going to find each other. And it's going to be like, oh, you've got their flag, I got your flag.
It's just a race.
I don't know what happens at that point. You'll find a lot if you do really small level kind of CTFs where there's not that many players. Both of you will end up with a flag, and then it's kind of just like, what are we doing here? So having these routes, maybe break it down. So again, in this kind of diagram, we've blocked off these areas.
Nice.
We've got one route where we did have these 4 open areas and a huge open area as well. So it kind of limits what's going on, but in generally a good way.
Sensible.
The other thing that I've done and talked about is actually just blocked the LOS between the 2 bases.
Cool.
That's a standard practice. If you can ever see the other base from your base, you're doing it wrong. Because it's standard sniping, kind of.
It's no incentive to move. You're just going to stand there and just start shooting at the other people.
So when it comes to it, too many routes can also be a problem, as well as not enough routes. So 3 is a very good number to start with, and then just see what goes, see what kind of happens for it as well. Cool. So actually mapping collisions, this starts getting very technical and very easy at the same time. So generally anywhere where we would have had a bottleneck earlier on, we've highlighted those because someone can quite easily just wait here and wait for someone to come round. Exactly the same symmetry, exactly the same on the other side, or wait here and wait for someone to come round. That's going to happen. If I have 15 routes open here, it actually leads to worse gameplay. Because there's no, I'm waiting for this guy, but he's come around the other way. Instead of just an open area, and it gets really boring. For that kind of thing. So again, this is where you'll see a lot of planning in a lot of games where they've got specific areas, so red, green, blue, or specific areas. Counter-Strike does this really well, where it's every area has kind of got its own little section map for it. So here, if we again talk about LOS is blocked from pretty much most of it. The biggest LOS is where I've highlighted in yellow, which is obviously flipped on the other side. I would be actually tempted in this case to kind of maybe put some blocking stuff around here, but not too much that you actually occlude the flag. It's a tricky one, kind of getting this right. Probably at this stage, you put down and then go, maybe let's test it, kind of thing. Whatever you plan, something's going to change. You can't plan the perfect level because you don't know how people are going to react to it.
That's right.
It's always going to be an iterative process. But this kind of thing, we're kind of mapping this big circle in the middle as probably one of the biggest exchanges because, again, movement speed. This is the fastest on the blue side. Opposite is fastest on the red side. So the closest encounter between them is going to be this. But if that's the fastest there, that route there is probably the fastest uptake for the red team. So we're actually we're pushing them away from each other as well as dragging them into each other at the same time. You start getting a lot of very complex mini plays within stuff. So if you were being very defensive, you probably put, stand around here on one time, kind of get that angle, or in fact go up here because you're kind of expecting this run up here as well. It's hard because at this point, if there's 6v6, whoa.
It's going to be all over the place. But the maps we're designing when it comes to UT, offer 3 and 4v4. So, keep coming back to that as well. Make sure that you're getting the scale right and the number of routes fits that amount of people. So again, for
4v4, this is probably quite good.
You've
got
absolutely.
A nice split where there's not too many, possibly after and maybe another one on a skill route. As I said, because I know there's definitely one on the next slide. But iteration map design and kind of even just keep coming back to this and going, as I've said there, this area is probably a bit too long. I might just put a few chunks, maybe some pipes or something that you could probably hide behind. Might work quite well for it. But you really should have had a good plan before you go, I'll just put some blocks down the engine and hope it works.
See what happens.
It's good having that plan, even if it's half of it, because then you flip it and you get the other half. So the next kind of thing, again, UT, we talked about verticality early on. Control of vertical, it is one of the big aspects. So with these pixel maps and the route planning stuff, it's flat. Flat's hard to read. Other than that, from this top down, but these are kind of standard mapping procedure. You do the flat map and then you kind of build up from it. So what I've kind of done here is just added a lot of areas of interest. So stuff kind of anywhere that's dark is down, anywhere that's bright is up. So putting in these dark areas kind of cuts off some line of sight, or it gives people a place to hide. And these top ones kind of give people another route into it. So in this kind of case, on the blue base, we're looking at something really high up, and then something low down right next to it, where there's that kind of weird juxtaposition, because everything's flat, and you just lob around with a flat cannon in, and you're going to hit something. While if it's on different heights, there's a lot more.
You've got to factor it in, the angle, the arc.
Also, kind of thing. One of the big things in UT is you can't translocate with the flag.
Absolutely.
So you can actually have routes in. So in this one, this kind of top route is a very high route and you jump down. You can't get back up there if you just picked up the flag. So you've then got to kind of move on, and you've got to pick one of these directions to kind of run in for it. So you can start generating a lot more sort of definition in these things as well. So kind of the next stage of pixel maps is, of course, the voxel map. So I've used a bit of software called Magic of Voxel to actually just import that image straight into it and then just raise some heights on it. And you can start getting a nice 3D version of this, which you can then use to go, oh, actually, here's some cool ideas.
Is Magic Voxel free?
You just download it. I'll probably do a VT on it at some point as well. But you can get this kind of thing, or you can just make this in Max or something. You're using a 1-to-1 scale with pixels.
Yeah.
Yet we'd probably have ramps or something instead, but that's kind of when we hit go, well, actually, let's have a look at engine instead of just doing it in some of the software. But having a 3D view, kind of, it helps a lot kind of visualise a bit more what we can kind of see and where we can go. I've done this and it's helped a lot with the height and the depth, because there was this point it's like, oh, well, we could hide down here, and you know, working out exactly what that is. That's more of the in-engine thing, getting it kind of right.
The specifics of that, but immediately that's really useful, just being able to see that.
Because you can also work out different strategies and paths just based on the heights variance as we're going through these things. So it is useful throwing it into 3D at some points as well. So we start getting a lot more complexity at this point. Now, what we haven't talked about is weapon placements or anything like that. Obviously, we talked about height and translocation, which does leave us different options within the game. But UT, as I said very early on, actually, you start with the Enforcer, the pistol, which it's not great. So you would add more weapons in to actually create more pulls. So I was talking about before, that pull towards this route. I could put a weapon in, a really cool weapon, maybe the rocket launcher, and somewhere in the middle, and that will create a massive pull in that direction as well, because whoever controls the best weapons generally controls the board.
Yeah, that's
in this sort of case.
It's not like, you know, the Call of Duties and whatnot, where you equip your gun to start with, you know. So like, whereas a lot of those guns are maybe balanced in different ways, we balance these guns by placing them in the level and making them difficult to get. That's how it is. So
you kind of do that, and it's also one of the ways, again, if you've kind of done some testing and you go, oh, no one's using this top route, you can then go, well, maybe let's put some damage stats up there or some armour or something like that. And it's kind of that a more clever player, a player who's seen the level before, will go, actually, the armour's up there and no one ever goes up there. So I'm going to go up there first and then come back round, and I've got an advantage.
Yeah, sure.
Because I've taken a bit of time out. And we can do some more planning on that. So that's when these things start getting even more complex. There becomes a point where you need to test stuff. And you can't go, well, this will happen and this will happen and it'll be perfect. And then no one does it. And
no, that's it. You've got to test it.
So when it comes
design it all you want. But
so when it comes to weapons, and switch game very quickly here.
Same engine
for the end point. There we go. So back in Gears, multiplayer Gears, not single player Gears, pretty much most of the maps are actually dead on symmetrical. So they're not even flip symmetrical, they're just straight symmetrical, which is an odd choice, but it worked really well just for the kind of gameplay back on the 360 era and that sort of thing. So I think we've seen this map in one of the other VTs actually.
Just on annotating. I think I popped it in there just for annotating things. But...
Well, that's perfectly fine. I've just seen it before. So what I've actually done here is actually just put some extra annotations on. So the weapon placement, again, perfect symmetry going on, which means perfect balance. If that's fun or not is left to see. Just because it's symmetrical doesn't mean it's fun.
No.
When it comes to these, but these are quite well tested, and it's a very well played game.
It means there's an equal chance for everyone having a boring time. That's all it could mean.
There we go. So in Gears, basically the pistol's all right, but it's not anything to write home about. It gives you a bit of an advantage. The torque bow's a weird one. If you know how to use it, it's devastating. If you don't, it's pointless. And then the boom shot is pretty much your one-shot kill weapon anyway, so it's always a growth to. And then the frag grenades, again, massively important, especially for dealing with cover, especially in the original game. Things change between the games for it as well. But we've got these draws. So again, the start locations, safe start location. You generally always get that, so you don't get LOS on this. So this is just deathmatch for the most part. Everyone's got the same routes and same options. So there are draws. So the first draw is probably coming in here and then going, am I going to go up? Am I going to go mid? Am I going to go down? So if we go down, we're going to come across areas of fire very quickly. So these areas I've kind of highlighted are clear lines of shot. So Gears is a very cover shoot. Move to the next location. So if someone's covered up here, they're going to have a very good LOS when it comes to it. So Gears, for a lot of it, you'll run forward, then you'll actually run back to fortify the position for it as well. So these points kind of stay the same all the time, and then it's only end game where you kind of move in to kind of crunch down on a zone.
Those lines of sight are long, but they're narrow, aren't they? That's the interesting
that kind of thing. So again, with the boom shot and the torque bow, they're really devastating if you can kind of get those in. So the general point is kind of anywhere that's highlighted in yellow. So you're gonna get fighting around this because it's symmetrical and it's probably it's the quickest. I'd say it's probably the quickest, best weapon to get is kind of this straight down and straight down. The boom shot's probably going to be a bit less because it's so obvious.
Yeah,
that everyone's going to go for it, and because it's obvious, you could get people standing here and standing there with very good lines of sight onto it. So you actually draw the enemy in, and then you shoot them as soon as they're trying to get it.
Yeah, bait them out.
Go out in the cover.
Sure, cool.
So this works very well with Gears mechanics. So again, this kind of map style wouldn't work very well for UT. Because we're a lot more mobile than we are in Gears. Gears is about cover. It's
deliberate, isn't it? Yeah.
And then you'll probably get stuff at the top, again, for more expert players, where this kind of area is very well covered, so you'll get a lot more engagement around the best. I'm going to say probably one of the better weapons to talk about for this. We're not going to get too much damage around here because it's going to take too long for someone from red to come over here and kind of get a good line on it.
Sure.
So it's actually a very free, easy weapon to get really good stuff, and then you can kind of come back round there and then lob them over, which is why these points are really devastating when you've got the frag grenades, because it's really easy to kind of hit them for it as well. So this is kind of thing. The other thing I've got there is a practical engagement depth, which is what we're talking about with your effective weapon range.
Yeah.
So you can sit here and probably get a line of sight to someone over here. Well, you ain't going to hit anything with the Lancer because the field of fire is far too wide.
Yeah.
And with the health system in Gears, it's a regen health system, so I could pop some shots off, get 10%, but then you're back up by the time you've hit the next one. So it's pointless. You're just wasting rounds for it as well. But that does generate problems in stuff like UT, where if I was here and I have an LOS over here, and I've got a sniper rifle, it's worth me just sitting waiting for that shot.
There's no downside.
Because it's that sort of health system for it. So again, a lot of this is very dependent on the game. It comes back to this a lot. So UT is going to use kind of some of the same things, but also it's very movey, very jumpy around as well when it comes to it. So it's kind of food for thought. Everything's a bit different. That's the nature of games.
Yeah, absolutely. We make the levels for the mechanics of the game in question.
So talking about collisions, that's pretty much it for this one. But it's that kind of thing. You can generate a map based on where you want collisions to happen, rather than going, here is my thing, and let's just put some stuff in and hope for the best. Which is a really bad way of kind of putting a field out and then putting boxes in and then hoping people will kind of find each other.
It's a bad start, and it's only probably going to get. I mean, it might get better, but if you've thought about it,
then you know what you want, and then if it doesn't happen, you can heat map it maybe, and then figure out or adjust things so there's better stuff on other sides. And things like that.
That's it. Just on iteration and improving it, it's worth going back as well and just having a look at how we got how you got to your final map, because obviously Mike started off with the really simple corridor, and then you see from slide to slide how we got, so how we've gone from that to the end result is really cool, and it's considered. So and those are the sort of processes we want to see you develop. Obviously, we don't expect you to start with a single corridor. But you can see how you can quickly go from something super simple to complex and balanced and considered quite quickly. So
rather than just trying to do it straight from the get-go. Because it's a hard process. Making good maps is hard.
You throw that together straight away, and you wouldn't land on that immediately. And if you did, you might have something similar, but you wouldn't have the same understanding behind all the decisions. So you wouldn't have all the considerations of this is the fastest, this is the longest, this is line of sight. So that's slowly been iterated to that point, and that's kind of what we want to see.
Cool. So another way of designing maps, I suppose, as well as kind of what you really want to see in multiplayer, which is that location of collisions as well.
Cool.
Right, then we'll call it a close.
Awesome. Cool. Perfect.
All right,
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.